It seems like I've been here before, but everything seems different. I guess I better get to it and start breaking down all the dungeons of the Legend of Zelda for the NES for its second quest. Dungeon 1. So, in the second quest, Dungeon 1 can be found in the exact same spot as the first dungeon of the first quest, but most dungeon locations have been mixed around as well as the design of the dungeon, meaning the dungeon layout and map design is different for each dungeon. Dungeon 1 keeps it rather simple though, by having the same lightish blue as before. This time, however, it looks like the letter E. This dungeon is fun though, as it sets you out on a wild goose chase at first, if you don't know which wall to bomb in order to reach the boss room. This dungeon is harder though, as it has boss creatures in it, as well as sword-shooting Stalfos knights. Guess they have undergone some training. You still find a boomerang in this dungeon, but now that it's the only dungeon item, and you need to eliminate all the orange Goria to the room right of the entrance. Here you can also bomb the wall north of you to reveal the room, with the stairs leading to the top part of the dungeon, where the boss and Triforce shard awaits. Overall, this is a tougher starter dungeon that is pretty fun. Dungeon 2. Dungeon 2 is where the difficulty just hits the fan and punches you in the face right after entering the first room, after the entrance as you encounter Gibdos. Welcome to the second quest, everybody, where it throws high-level enemies at you early on. You find this dungeon hidden away under an Armos Knight, where the shop with the blue ring used to be in the first quest. This dungeon rocks the light green color scheme. So yeah, you encounter Gibdos in this dungeon, and they take a while to defeat with a wooden sword, but luckily you can stun them with your boomerang. This is the least of your problems though, as you run into a pretty tough boss creature in this dungeon if you head straight north from the start of the dungeon. This dungeon also has orange dark nuts and pulse voices to worry about. The dungeon design is that of an A this time around, and the boss item can be found in the middle of the A in the black section of the map. However, to reach the room, you have to enter from the north by a secret wall to the south you traverse by pushing down towards the southern wall. So yeah, that's a thing in the second quest. Invisible secret entrances through the walls you now have to worry about. The dungeon item is the recorder, which are needed to enter the next dungeon. Dungeon 2 is one of my least favorite dungeons, just because of the enemies it throws at you and the hidden wall. It's a huge gap in difficulty, and it won't stop here for the second quest. So buckle up and put on your big boy pants, because here we go. Dungeon 3. So, Dungeon 3 throws everything out of the window that Dungeon 2 set up. What do I mean by that? Well, this dungeon is an L, so I guess it lets you take an L. Or perhaps it takes an L itself. Anyhow, you need to bring food with you if you want to get the magical boomerang, which is the dungeon item in this dungeon, and you'll find it at top of the L by eliminating 6 orange Goria. Yes, orange and not blue, even though you pass a room full of them to get there. The dungeon is a complete joke though, as you can find the boss by going up and left from the entrance. I guess it's supposed to be more challenging though, since there are 3 of them and you only have 8 bombs at this point, but with the right skill, this is no challenge. A complete joke of a dungeon in terms of difficulty, but to be fair, there isn't much you can do with an L. Anyhow, you find this dungeon by playing the recorder at the lake that lies where the second dungeon used to lie in the first quest, and it rocks the bluish purple, which makes sense, since it was located under a lake. Not a very interesting dungeon overall, though. Dungeon 4. Remember where the 5th dungeon were located in the first quest? Well, now that is a fairy pond, and the dungeon is located in a maze by pushing a rock revealing it. This dungeon sports a deep green, and we went from an L to a D. Are you kidding me? Now we get a D? Real clever there, Nintendo. This is exactly what this dungeon is though, a punch straight in the D, because now the difficulty is all over the place again. We have the red and blue bubbles in this dungeon that prevent you from using your sword and allowing you to use your sword again, and from now on we'll see them a lot. They are annoying just like this dungeon. You can get a bomb upgrade for 100 rupees in this dungeon, as well as a small treasure room above it in the 2 blacked out spots in the middle of the D. This dungeon have orange and blue dark nuts to deal with, as well as pulse voices. So you have 2 of the most durable enemies in this dungeon. Actually, make that 3, as this dungeon have freaking Gibdos too! Not only that, but a room where you have to either pay 50 rupees or one of your heart containers to pass. Now that is a real demo, which this entire dungeon is, because of the location of the dungeon item. The dungeon item is the raft, which is required to reach the next dungeon of the second quest. But to find it, you need to get to the Triforce room and head north through a secret room, where you are eased in with 3 orange dark nuts and fire shooting statues. The next room are 3 dodongos, so you better have 6 bombs. And finally, the room where you find the item, you have 2 pulse voices jumping around, 2 orange dark nuts, and 2 blue dark nuts to defeat in order to be able to push the block, revealing the staircase to the raft. However, this room is cramped, and you have a limited moving area, so chances are you will die. It's not an easy task getting here either. Oh, I forgot you also find a magic book in this dungeon, so it has 2 dungeon items. At least the magic book is not hard to come by. Overall, this dungeon is a challenging pain in the butt, and one dungeon I don't find fun at all. Dungeon 5. Dungeon 5 in the second quest is located where Dungeon 4 was located in the first quest. The design of this dungeon is that of a Z. It also rocks the golden looks, and with that out of the way, we have now spelled Zelda as Eilds in that order. This dungeon is also a massive pain, but mostly because it's linear and you have to fight against those annoying blue wizrobes here, as well as having to avoid the orange wizrobes attacks and blue and red bubbles. This dungeon holds a bow, and make sure you have the arrows before entering this dungeon if you want one of the keys. This dungeon holds some of the boss creatures after all, but the biggest pain is the wizrobes alongside the red and blue bubbles, and the fact that you have a linear path you have to go through in order to beat it. It's not the most interesting dungeon, but at least it's not as bad as the previous one, or Dungeon 6 from the first quest. Just try and make it through this dungeon as quickly as you can. Dungeon 6. What is it with this game and its 6th dungeon being located near the game's graveyard, or in this case, in the graveyard itself, under a tombstone? Luckily, the second quest, Dungeon 6, is not as difficult as the first quest, which says a lot about the first quest, Dungeon 6. It still keeps the gold paint though. The dungeon has the same enemies, meaning it has orange and blue wizrobes and likes. It also has Vyres, but since you should have the magic sword at this point, the Vyre should die in one hit. Again, it has the blue and red bubbles, so enjoy not being able to attack after getting hit by them. This dungeon plays tricks on you by having areas only accessible via bombable walls and a few hidden passages through walls, but it offers at least 2 routes you can take to reach the stairs leading towards the stairs where the boss and Triforce shards await. The dungeon item is the ladder, and you will need it to beat the dungeon. You find it in the room furthest to the left. The boss room is located to the furthest right, under the blinking dot. This dungeon does have 2 boss creatures besides the actual boss, but one of them is skippable if you don't want to bother fighting it. Overall, this is actually a fun dungeon with a weird map design, but fun dungeon to traverse. Wish I could say the same about the next one. Dungeon 7. Dungeon 7 is found by burning a bush in the green forest, and is a dungeon I found by mistake as a kid. This dungeon is grey, and it's a pain. It's mostly linear in map design, except for the middle where 9 rooms are next to each other. Don't let that fool you though, because this dungeon is not linear, it's a freaking staircase maze. You have several sets of staircases that takes you to different rooms. Rooms you can enter and get stuck in, so that you have to use a staircase back to the beginning of the dungeon. Yay! This dungeon is also full of blue dark nuts, cramped into almost every room. Then, there yet again, the red and blue bubbles you see in every dungeon now. A few boss creatures and 2 rooms you have to pay 50 rupees to get out from, or 1 heart container, which is another pain. The middle room in the 9 rooms of the middle is a gateway you need to use if you want to reach the staircase leading to the boss room. You can find the staircase leading to the secluded section of the dungeon where you find the dungeon item, the red candle, fairly early in the dungeon, so that's nice at the very least. This dungeon is challenging, but despite being a massive pain, it was fun. At least while using a map. If I were to do this dungeon without one, I bet I would go nuts for Cocoa Pops over it. Also, what is it with Dungeon 7 always holding the red candle? Dungeon 8. Dungeon 8 is green and hidden behind a bombable wall behind a river near the area where you get the white sword. Now, how in the everlasting abyss were you to know that? That's ludicrous! Not only is the dungeon a hassle to find, it's also a bigger pain than Dungeon 7 was, because it has a similar design with both map design and the fact that you have a million staircases to keep track of. The enemies in this dungeon are mostly blue Goria and those annoying bubbles again. There are also 2 rooms with wall monsters, so have fun with that and avoid getting grabbed, because if you do, you are sent back to the entrance of the dungeon. Have fun with that. This dungeon also allows throwing you against the dongos in pairs of 3. Again, have fun with that, and I hope you have enough bombs, because in some rooms they are mandatory to destroy in order to proceed. The 2 dungeon items are the wand, which you can reach by taking the stairs early on in the dungeon, and the master key, which you get by going left once you've gone through the stairs at the final room if you follow the path from the entrance. Also, better have meat on you as well as 100 rupees if you want to upgrade your bombs, which you can if you blow up the southern wall in the room before the boss room. Don't get caught by the wall masters in that room though, before the bomb upgrade. This dungeon loves its bombs and staircase mazes. This dungeon is more annoying than it is difficult, but I'm sure you can get some joy out of it. Dungeon 9. This is the penultimate challenge of the Legend of Zelda, the final dungeon, Dungeon 9. It's grey as well. You find it in Death Mountain by bombing a wall in the upper left corner of the world. This dungeon is a maze with secret passages through walls and bombable walls. It has wires, like-likes and whiz ropes alongside a few boss creatures. Just like in the first quest, this dungeon holds the red ring found in the upper left ear and the silver arrows found in the right eye. The dungeon design is that of a moblin head or fiend or Ganon's head, depending on what you prefer calling it. I do enjoy the design of this dungeon though, and it's a fun and challenging final dungeon, with a few traps and a few areas where you need to use staircases in order to reach. Don't enter without the red potion though, because you will take a lot of damage. In fact, I went out from the dungeon to get another red potion. Your goal is to get to the right eye for the silver arrows first, and then to the left ear to use the staircase there, leading to the opposite side so you can reach the right ear where Ganon and Princess Zelda awaits. Again, this dungeon has plenty of red bubbles and only 1 room with blue bubbles. It does have some regular bubbles though, which you can use to get your sword back after a few seconds. This is the game's most challenging dungeon, and I had a blast traversing it. I did use a map though, so might have been why I enjoyed it so much, but I did take my time exploring every single room of it. There we have it folks, all dungeons have been covered in the second quest as well, and we can leave all the dungeoneering in this game behind us for now. I hope you enjoy the dungeon breakdowns, as more of them will come in the future for the other Zelda titles. I hope you enjoy them and take care, and I will see you in the next video. Hello everybody, thank you very much for watching this dungeon breakdown of the second quest dungeons from the Legend of Zelda for the NES. A special thanks to my 2 Patreon supporters, Hikikomori Media and Patrick Peterson, for their wonderful Patreon pledges. If you enjoyed this video, consider pressing the good old thumbs up, share what you thought by leaving a comment down below, and join the Discord server. You can find a link in the Discord, for the Discord I mean, down in the description. Check it out, join the conversation. If you enjoyed this video, consider becoming part of the Frog Squad by subscribing today if you aren't already. I think this is the frog. Should be press the frog to subscribe. Share your thoughts, press the frog, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified about uploads. Master playlist is down here. Breakdown videos over here. With that said, thank you very much for watching. Stay frogger on, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!